helpful to get advice from a more experienced gardener in your neighborhood.
Hey Sarah.
Hi Mark.
How's it going today?
Good.
What are you making today?
This is a shade cover for the salad greens. We're at the 1st of May and we're getting hot weather. They will not last for too many more weeks if we don't put some shade over.
So that's added protection against the sun so they don't wither up.
Yeah, they get too hot, and when they get days in a row of hot weather, they start bolting.
Yeah.
And once they start, you can't hardly stop it. So spraying it with cool water a time or two if it gets really hot, which today is not that hot, but up 90 degrees, that has a bad effect on them.
Yeah. All right. And I see you're using raised beds here. Have you found that more effective?
Yes, it's a little work in the beginning, but not really that bad. But it's less work as far as weeding, and it's not only that, but one thing you get out of it is, like, we use a lot of manure and natural. We try to organic garden, and so when you put a manure on a whole big row garden, see, half of your nutrients, or more really, 2/3 are actually lost in the aisles.
Yeah.
And we used to do it that way, and then we started off with maybe one raised bed, and then we saw, you know, how great it was. I mean, you can pull this soil back. Of course, this hasn't been tilled in years.
Sure,
And I mean, it's
really good soil.
see how loose it is.
Yeah.
It's easy, so easy. I mean, you can just do that with a hand trowel.
Yeah.
You can't go out in a row garden and do that.
No.
And it stays like this all summer long.
Yeah, that's great.
This mulch, what it does, this is mulching. When you lay it on top, the main purpose of the mulching is weed control, retaining the moisture,
That's important.
and not packing the soil. Because if this soil is exposed to the rain, it packs it down just like your lawn.
Yeah.
But when this mulch is on top of it, it also, another thing it does, which isn't the main reason we use it, but another thing it does is it slowly feeds the soil with organic matter as what's on the bottom decomposes. The worms come up, they feed on the raw organic material, they go back down. As they travel up and down, they're
Aerating
creating, yes, they're aerating the soil.
Yeah, that's great.
And then their casings are just some of the best stuff there is in the way of fertilizer.
Looks really good.
Thank you. This is the way we start in the spring. The bed has gone through the winter with the mulch, with the covering of mulch on it, which kept you from getting weeds late in the fall when you're through gardening in that bed, but yet it's not cold enough to keep the weeds from growing yet. You'll have a lot of weeds left over from that if you don't have it covered. So as soon as we take out produce from a bed or we're through with it, we cover it. Now, if I wanted to plant here, this is what I'd do in the spring. I'd pull this back, not quite this far, and I'd put a lettuce plant in there, or spinach. On most of these big romaine plants or a good sized spinach, you'd get about 3 across your bed in a 30-inch wide, or 36 if you're a man with long arms. But for most people, 30 inches is comfortable, because you want to be able to get over here and do a little work if you need to, without stretching out uncomfortably.
Sure.
Now, if I was sowing seeds across the whole thing, I would just simply dig it up all the way across, plant my seeds, pull my stuff, my mulch back up to it, water, and it's done.
Nice and easy.
Yep. When it gets thin over here on the edge, you'll start getting weeds. You got to bring in a little more. The #1 rule of raised bed gardening is to keep it covered. If you don't keep it covered, you'll have a mess. Because if you're trying not to till, you don't even have the advantage then of the tiller. You've got to hand weed all of this stuff. So there are a couple of rules. One would be to put in lots of organic matter And number 2 would be to keep your beds covered year-round. My husband had this mailbox left over from his work, and it was dented and he couldn't use it. And a friend of mine had given me the idea to put a mailbox out here. And so when you come out so many times working and you never have all the tools you need, I put my string in here and scissors, and I'll put baggies in there so I can grab a quick salad to give to a friend without running in the house all the time.
Good idea.
Yeah, or like if you have a book out at the garden, I'll stick it in here if it starts raining, and it's very useful. And the big one holds a lot. Mark is taking a typical row garden and he's turning this into raised beds. Which all you really have to do is work out the measurements. He's going to try to get about a 30-inch wide bed here with about a 12-inch aisle. And part of the garden will be done in the rows that he's already started with, but he's going to experiment with a couple of raised beds and see how that does this year.
Aisle to about
36, 46.
50.
Okay,
we
50.
did a 14-inch.
That's an aisle. Okay.
And
Then we need
to 80.
one.
Would be the next bed.
Yeah.
And then we need an aisle. Our aisle would have to go to about here.